Okay, here we go.
Sunday evening, everyone. John Tapp here with the Kenworth W990, and we're going to start as we start with four fork, Alaska, forks and tires. It seems like sponsor is going to be starting here in Clay County, and be sure to kind of make some. Okay, those turn that slow. And it's gonna be a but not a big the lead let's and let's
Fine. I'll find a new route.
This programming is sponsored by the Eternal Gandhi Museum, dedicated to education, preservation, and promotion of Mahatma Gandhi's legacy through stories of how nonviolence can inspire civil rights, freedom, and social justice movements. Tickets at egmh.org.
Talking to our producer Sindhu, who cannot make images still want imagery?
I mean, after all my reporting, like, honestly, no.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I have no practice with it. I feel like it could be kind of a bad trip that I like can't get out of.
Well, what if you could just get like a little?
Yeah. Yeah. Although the more I think about it, the more I just have such a clean, empty space inside of me.
So it's like it's not the fear of having the pictures. It's like appreciating.
Not having them. Yeah. Like I am not gonna see poetry the way you see poetry, or experience my memories in some sort of like rich sensory way. But like I do have a meditation practice, and it's like there's so much more to quiet if you're dealing not just with words and like ideas, but actually like images.
There's more stuff to sweep out of there.
Yeah. So I think I'm good.
You're good with where you are. You reported your way out of lust. You were like, actually, I don't want it.
But also just beyond myself, I really do think it's a good thing for the world that there's a spectrum and, there's all these different brains thinking in all these different ways,
But there's also a kind of like the diversity means we're more like room in our own heads a little bit.
Yeah.
Like where there's a novel that we love and I can't even
Can't read this description of a desert bush. Yeah.
Or even a memory. Like it's like we were both in the same place at the same time, experiencing the same thing, and then a year later we're talking about it, and it's like we remember it in a totally different way. I don't know. Like, there is something sad about that.
And that probably leads to like so much miscommunication and misunderstanding. Why are you so obsessive about this thing that happens?
Why can't you see this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think for that problem, it's like we all just need to understand better, I think, just how differently our brains work.
Right.
Wait, can I play you guys one last thing?
Yeah.
Of course, go for it.
Okay, so I was just talking about meditating, something I love to do. When I was talking to Derek, the guy with that super intense imagery, I asked him what he likes to do, like what he does for fun, and I just need to share it with you.
I also practice smart vocals just for fun. People have told me I should try and get into a band, but I don't think that's really my goal or anything.
What is martial arts?
Give me an example. Okay, prepare your eardrums.
Stick with us. Radio Lab coming up.
After this shot,
Hi, I'm Chris Boyd, host of
Get
Think.
ready.
Think is a show for curious minds. Whether we're discussing history, science, politics, or the arts, my hope is that every conversation inspires curiosity and complexity, and that every listener walks away with their own questions, inspiration, and a thirst for more knowledge. Tune in and join me as we learn something new and take a moment to think.
Weekdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
Life coming at you fast? Many times, there's not enough hours in the day to follow all of Houston's news. When you find yourself too busy to stay informed, we have two words for you. Hello, Houston. A daily newsletter delivered right to your inbox
on News 88.7 and HoustonPublicMedia.org.
Hey, you're listening to Radio Lab. This is Lee Miller, and we have been discussing what it means to see or not to see things in your mind. In the first half of the show, we focused on the science behind aphantasia, producer Sydney's personal experience with having no mental imagery. For this next part, we're going to hear a conversation Sydney had with someone else who has no mental imagery, and this completely blew my mind because I know his work. Author John Green. He wrote The Fault in Our Stars, Turtles All the Way Down,
which is what I love about this. As a language person, as a writer, I'm most interested in places where language starts to because it works almost everywhere. Like I can do almost everything without having anything visually. But there are places where it breaks down. And now I wonder, like, I've spent all these years like writing novels about places where language breaks down. And now I wonder, like,
and I'm from Donegal in Ireland, and here are the staff credits. Radiolab was created by Jad Abumrad and is edited by Soreen Wheeler. Lulu Miller and Latif Nasser are our co-hosts. Drin Keefe is our director of sound design. Our staff includes Simon Adler, Jeremy Bloom, Becca Bressler, Ikedi Foster Keys, W. Harry Fortuna, David Gable, Maria Paz Gutierrez, Sindhu Na Nasamadan, Matt Keelty, Annie McEwen, Alex Neeson, Saru Kari, Valentina Powers, Sarah Sambach, Ariane Wack, Pat Walters, and Molly Webster. Our fact checkers are Diane Kelly, Lee Kruger, and Natalie Middleton.
Hi, this is Jeremiah Marva, and I'm calling from San Francisco, California. Leadership support for Radiolab science programming is provided by the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, Science Sandbox, Simons Foundation Initiative, and the John Templeton Foundation. Foundational support for Radiolab was provided by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation.
We're a minute away from 7 on Sunday evening on your NPR station, News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen. On Houston Matters, we keep you connected and informed by exploring the issues, stories, and perspectives that make Houston unique. And it's all supported by listeners like you. Make a gift right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate.
30 seconds away from joining NPR's live special coverage of President Joe Biden's address from the Oval Office regarding the assassination attempt on presidential candidate Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump. We'll be going to NPR with that very soon, and we will stay with it for as long as necessary. 89 degrees with heat index of 102 right now here at the UH campus. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, the service of the University of Houston at 7 o'clock.
This is live special coverage from NPR News. I'm Scott Detrow. In a moment, President Biden will speak from the Oval Office following the assassination attempt yesterday of former President Trump. The remarks coming in a setting that signals to Americans that this is the highest level of importance to the president. Comes a bit more than 24 hours after a failed assassination attempt against Trump. And if you're just catching up, the former president was injured yesterday evening when a gunman opened fire at a rally in Pennsylvania. One person was killed and 2 others were wounded before Secret Service agents killed the shooter. Earlier today, Biden said he had ordered an independent review of the incident and committed to sharing the results of it publicly. He said that Trump receives heightened security and that he had told the head of the Secret Service to review security in place for the Republican National Convention. Biden said he and Trump spoke Saturday night after the attack. Both he and the Trump campaign framed the conversation about the same way, as brief but respectful. Now Biden will speak directly to the American people in a rare Oval Office address. We will bring that to you shortly. We expect the president momentarily. He did speak Saturday night in the immediate wake of the shooting and again earlier today. And in both situations, the president said there is no place for violence, no place for political violence in the United States. He said that he was praying for former President Trump's recovery and that he was urging Americans to come together and to denounce political violence. Here's the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. But remember, while we may disagree, we're not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens.
Go straight on.
Most importantly, we're fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back. Take stock of where we are. How we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night.
Go straight on.
He's doing well. Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family, all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation.
Go straight on.
We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support, or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot. An American citizen killed while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress in both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information, intimidation on election officials, with a kidnapping plot against the city government, or attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence, ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high.
Go
I've said
straight
it many
on.
times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. Some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. Politics must never be a little battlefield, God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face a time of testing as the election approaches. The higher the stakes, the more firm the passion will become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record, vision, my vision, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution, the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. Debate, disagree, compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. And in
Go straight on.
We resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should all be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth. I believe that with every soul, every power, every being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America so, make America. And think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos. We only listen to those with whom we agree. Misinformation is rampant. Where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember here in America, our radio is the most inclusive goals in our world. Nothing is more important for us now.
Go straight on.
And standing together, we can do this. You know, from the beginning, the founders understood the power of passion, so they created democracy. They gave reason and balance a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the America we must be. American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. American democracy where the rule of law is respected. American democracy where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just great notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. God bless you all. May God protect our troops.
President Biden speaking from the Oval Office of the White House. You are listening to live special coverage from NPR News.
Turn left.
And I'm here with NPR White House correspondents Deepa Shivaram, Franco Ordonez, and Tamara Keith, as well as NPR Justice correspondent Carrie Johnson. And Deepa, I'm going to start with you. You're at the White House. This is the third time since that assassination attempt last night that we have heard from President Biden. What struck you about these brief remarks tonight?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the third time we've heard from him, and in some ways the president reiterated, things he's already said, talking about how unity is so important right now. But I think what was interesting is that he specifically said that Americans need to pause and take a step back and just have a moment where it's time to cool down, is what he said. He said our politics has become really heated, and yes, we have disagreements. The stakes in the election are very high, but he called on people to not go down this road of political violence. Mm-hmm. I thought it was also interesting, Scott, he specifically named several instances where there has been political violence in America. He talked about that congressional baseball game shooting that happened in 2017. He mentioned January 6th. He mentioned the attack on former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, the plot in Michigan to kidnap Governor Whitmer, and of course this assassination attempt last night on President Trump. Several instances of political violence, and he said that there was no place for that in America. One line that really also stood out to me, he said politics must never be a literal battlefield and, God forbid, a killing field. And he said that, quote, we resolve our differences at the ballot box and not with bullets.
President Biden repeatedly urging Americans, and it was interesting, he kind of kept coming back to the same basic points over and over, urging people to lower the temperature, urging people to take a step back. And Deepa, the president has canceled a trip tomorrow that he was going to go to the LBJ Library in Austin, Texas, but he is keeping with his campaign schedule for the rest of the week.
Yeah, and he mentioned that in his remarks, too. He said there are some disagreements. We have different views. He talked about how the RNC, the Republican National Convention, is kicking off in Milwaukee this week, and he said, they're going to be critical of my record, and I have things that I'm going to bring up while I travel the country as well. So, yeah, he did cancel that trip to Austin tomorrow, but he is continuing on with several stops in Las Vegas this week. That includes remarks to the NAACP, as well as Hispanic civil rights organizations. So he's continuing to go out on the road. Nevada, of course, a swing state. So as this is all happening, there's still an election going on, and he spoke to that too, saying that the stakes of this are really high, and there are different views, and that's something to be considered as well.
I'm going to go to Franco Ordonez now, another NPR White House correspondent in Milwaukee for the convention. Franco's been covering the Trump campaign for us. And Franco, remind us what we have heard from former President Trump since the moment that he was shot about 6:15 p.m. yesterday.
Yeah, he's been talking a lot on social media about the shooting, about even this morning talking about how he was saved by God alone, and that's a quote. This morning he thanked supporters for their thoughts and prayers, and called on supporters to remain resilient in their faith and defiant in the wake of wickedness. He also had that conversation with President Biden yesterday, and I did talk with the campaign today, who told me that it was a short and respectful call, which, speaking with my colleagues, including Tamara Keith, who's across from me right now, we are noting that it was very, very similar to the same response from President Biden. It seems both leaders are trying to keep that conversation close to the vest.
And Trump is in Milwaukee now, that's right?
Yes, he is in Milwaukee. He arrived just a little bit ago. He also put out on social media that, we really didn't expect to see him until Thursday. So to get this news was, quite a bit of surprise. But he did say that he was not going to allow a shooter, or in his words, a potential assassin, to force a change.
Has Trump been in front of the cameras? Have we gotten a full look at him since the shooting, since he was put into that SUV?
So what we have seen is him walking up and down the steps of his airplane. He seems to be doing it fine without any need for assistance. For example, his campaign put out video today of his arrival in Milwaukee, of him walking down the steps from his plane and waving to some airmen who were there. fun, as his campaign has been saying since yesterday afternoon meeting.
All right, thanks, Franco. I'm going to go next to Carrie Johnson. Carrie, can you give us the latest on the state of the federal investigation into this assassination attempt?
Absolutely. The FBI has identified the 20-year-old shooter as Thomas Crooks. He was killed by the Secret Service after firing some of those shots yesterday in Pennsylvania. They do not yet have a motive. President Biden has cautioned people not to get out ahead of this FBI investigation, to wait for the facts to emerge. So far, the FBI tells us that they think this person acted alone. There's no hint of any ideology, no prior warning or communications they've been able to uncover yet. But the Bureau has shipped the shooter's phone to its lab in Quantico and is hoping to get more access to his communications to basically provide a timeline of what he was doing and when he was speaking in the weeks and days leading up to this shooting yesterday in Pennsylvania. They're investigating this, the FBI is, as both an act of potential domestic terrorism and an attempted assassination as well.
And Carrie Johnson, serious questions about the Secret Service from many Republican members of Congress that are going to be pretty high profile in the coming days and weeks.
Scott, there have been so many investigations of the Secret Service. As you mentioned, President Biden has ordered his own independent review, has promised to share the results of that. Members of Congress from both political parties are interested in calling to account the Secret Service director and other people, potentially the Department of Homeland Security. And the FBI is going to be investigating what the Secret Service did and didn't do, as well as local police counterparts as well. But that's farther along down the line for sure. For now, they want to find a motive, to be very clear that this person didn't communicate or give a sense of his plans beforehand, and nobody else was involved in this terrible crime.
All right, Carrie, thank you so much. And finally, I want to go to Tamara Keith, NPR senior White House correspondent, who is also at WWF in Milwaukee. And Tam, I want to ask you something because we heard from President Biden urging Americans to lower the temperature in politics, saying that there are disagreements, but they should be decided peacefully. They should be argued back and forth within the peaceful context of elections. I want to ask you about some of the criticism we have heard from high-profile Republicans, including Steve Scalise, the congressman who was shot and seriously injured a few years ago in one of those moments of political violence that Biden talked about, arguing that Biden and other Democrats are making the case that the stakes are so high because former President Trump would bring a lot of authoritarian tendencies to the White House. The things that he is campaigning on, the things that he is promising to do are in line with authoritarian leaders. That's something you hear from Biden and Kamala Harris and other Democrats over and over again, and they seem to be sincere and legitimate concerns. Scalise and other Republicans, including J.D. Vance, who might be Trump's vice presidential pick, are saying when you make the stakes that high, you are inviting political violence. So I'm asking you, how do you think Biden can lower the temperature but still raise these urgent concerns that he has?
Yeah, Biden has repeatedly described Trump as a threat to democracy as we know it, or Trumpism, and some of the policy ideas that Trump has advocated, his talk of being a dictator on day one. Maybe it's a quip, maybe it's something more.
I'll find
it is almost inevitable that some of that language will return to the campaign. Trump, similarly, not to both sides it, but Trump also has incredibly dire language about the risk to America as you know it if Biden were to be reelected again.
Yeah,
Trump talks about this being the last election.
It's been several elections in a row of existential stakes by both sides.
Absolutely. And I think both sides strongly believe that the threat is existential to the country. And as a result of that, the rhetoric has been very hot. I talked to the Biden campaign about this. They do not believe that they are going to need to dramatically change the way the president campaigns because they still believe these stakes are the stakes in the election. They may change somehow the way they talk about it, but it's going to continue. And we'll see what happens at the Republican National Convention, but it's highly likely that they will be talking about the stakes in existential terms as well.
In the meantime, Tam, I'm going to remind everybody what the top story in America was up until 24 hours ago, because we are still in the middle of a presidential election, and this was a high-profile moment for President Biden to address the nation. He has come under intense scrutiny from many members in his own party, urging him to step aside at this late moment in the campaign due to the deep concerns they had after his debate performance. We have now seen Biden give a high-profile press conference. We have seen him address the nation several times in these moments. What did you take from the way that Biden has been carrying himself these last few days, responding to this crisis, this attempted assassination?
Right. In moments of trauma, it is the president's job to provide comfort and reassurance to the American people. And that is the job that President Biden has been doing over the last few days. He also has now delivered remarks multiple times that have been carried live by everyone, because when you give an address from the Oval Office, that is not just any old address. Addresses from the
He's only given just a handful. I think this is his second Oval Office address.
It's his third.
Okay.
But both times that he's done it before have been really critical moments.
Yeah.
And so because this was an address to the nation, it takes on that interesting about this moment is I came here to Milwaukee expecting I was going to be going out and interviewing voters about whether they thought Biden should step aside. That conversation is on ice. That conversation in the political world is completely on ice.
In the meantime, we will hear President Biden continue with his campaign trips. He's going to Nevada later this week. Former President Trump, of course, will be at the Republican National Convention, which begins tomorrow. He is yet to pick his vice presidential candidate. This is the first time in decades that a convention has begun without the vice presidential nominee being named. So we will look for that. We will look for other storylines. You have been listening to live special coverage from NPR News. We will continue our coverage of all of these stories on NPR's newscasts, and tomorrow on Morning Edition. You can always head over to npr.org for the latest anytime, or listen to the Consider This podcast or the NPR Politics podcast.
And at 7:20, you're listening to your NPR station, News 88.7. We now rejoin Latino USA in Progress.
60s. Juanga's best friend and sometimes roommate during his adolescence. She's an integral part of his story. So we showed up cold at her house, hoping for the best. We knocked on her door, a small tenement-style house in an alleyway, and she answered.
Hola, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está? Qué bien.
Mitch is in her 70s and wears bright pink lipstick. Peeking through the door, I could see a collage of pictures of Juan Gabriel hung on her modest walls. She was like, "Who are you guys?"
Hola, mucho gusto. Mire, yo
We introduced ourselves and Mitch welcomed us in with Juárez hospitality.
Me llamo María Mercedes Álvarez Vicens. Aquí en Ciudad Juárez, arriba Juárez. Sí.
Meche was born and raised in Juárez. She had a rough home life and ran away as a teen, ending up working at Juárez nightclubs on the Strip. She lived in abandoned cars and houses and then in hotels, trying to make enough to eat, encountering creatures of the night.
Sometimes I go to the bars and I talk to the men and I say I'm hungry and I want a burrito torta, and they say, "Oh no, drink a beer first." But I know what they want.
She learned English on the Strip, talking to American partygoers who paid her for sex.
They want to take me to the hotel. Sometimes they take me, they pay me, but they stole my money because I'm very drunk.
Some of her clients included U.S. servicemen during the Vietnam War era.
So it's lonely,
Meche told us about the time she saw Juanga, this puppy-eyed boy, standing outside a Juárez club where she was a regular. He approached her and said,
I sing if you let me go inside because I want to sing.
Alberto was his name. He didn't yet go by Juan Gabriel. Meche said, "Sorry, kid, you're underage."
And the boss, he don't want young women and young men here in this place because of police.
Juanga was still too young and wasn't allowed in bars. Eventually, Meche took pity on the boy who looked sad and desperate.
And I say, only one song, please.
She bribed the band members to let him in, or else?
Oh, I don't want to buy you burritos and tortas no more. And I talk to Juan Gabriel and I say, come here.
So they were facing extreme poverty, but they were also resilient teens, hungry for life.
Go straight on.
They went out a lot, went dancing. They had a good time.
And he go playing cards, domino, loteria, and
Rerouting.
we got fun there.
Go straight on.
For decades, Juarez was known as this liberal hub where the rules of polite society didn't go. Americans like Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor would flock here to get a quick divorce. Juarez was a precursor to Las Vegas. Picture restaurants with perfectly fitted linen tablecloths, waiters in white jackets, and clubs that stayed open all night. Juarez had been an international party destination since Prohibition.
The music of the mariachis sets the tempo for a night out, filled with the sights and sounds of the border.
Sex workers like Meche would roam the bars and streets. A Boston writer once called Juarez the most wicked city.
You could see all kinds of people from different nationalities coming to Noa, not just Americans.
This is Arnulfo Gomez Vargas. He's been working at and eventually owning a bar in Juarez for about 60 years. He partied here during the glory days of the Noa Noa, a club that's the topic of Juanga's iconic song. In his song, Juan Gabriel wrote that the Noa Noa was a place, the ambiente, of ambiance, which might have been a dog whistle for a gay-friendly club. He wrote that everything here was different, a wink to open-minded Juarez. But Juarez wasn't a nighttime utopia either.
In some places, he was mistreated. But that's the way it was. It was something bad.
He said that in some places, he wasn't allowed to sing because he was gay.
But what does it have to do sexuality with good singing? I don't know.
People heckling Juanga. But if one club wouldn't take him, Juanga would find another club that would. Arnulfo remembers Juanga as a teen, calling himself by his stage name of Adan Luna, always walking down the Juarez Strip, trying to sing for someone, carrying a little notebook around where he'd write his songs. And at night, Juanga would bring his songs to Meche at their hotel.
And he go and knock my door. He say, hey, I want you hear a new song. And I say, oh, no molestes. Don't bother me. I got a big hangover. Bring me a caguama.
A caguama, a 40, which he'd bring her.
And when he sing, I drinking the beer. Oh, it's a nice song.
I love to picture teenage Juanga walking around with his notebook of songs, singing them to sex workers, trying to sneak into clubs. By the time he was doing that, he was kind of an expert at surviving the Juarez streets. He started hustling here since he was a child. That's what I want to learn more about when we leave Meche's house during our reporting in Juarez. We drive to the house where Juan Gabriel lived as a toddler in the 50s. It's a small adobe building with a tiny courtyard up front. It's here where Juanga's family arrived after they'd migrated to the border, looking for economic opportunities. Juanga's parents were farmers in Parácuaro, Michoacán, in west central Mexico. When Juan Gabriel was still a baby, his father lost touch with reality and was taken to a mental institution. Alone, Juanga's mom migrated north with her 6 children, Juanga still in diapers. He talked about it to the Mexican TV host Pati Chapoy in 1985, saying his mom had no choice but to move north. Juanga's mom got a job as a housekeeper for a rich family. She took Juanga, then a toddler, with her to work until the family didn't allow it anymore. According to his biography, Toddler Juanga spent his days with his older siblings or sometimes even alone in the busy streets of Juarez, cleaning cars or holding people's shopping bags for money. When Juanga was still a small child, a woman who worked at a shelter for kids saw him on the streets and told his mom that Juanga could have a better life at the shelter. There he could learn rather than be forced to work. In interviews for his TV bio series Hasta que te conocí, Juan Gabriel talked about how even as a 3-year-old, he felt his life was over when he realized his mom had left him at the shelter for good.
Me dejó ahí, entonces yo sentí que se me iba la vida de 3 años.
One of Juanga's best friends for over 40 years, Rosenda Puentes, says Juanga would talk to her about how tough it was to have grown up there.
He was very, very sad at the orphanage because, you know how kids can be very cruel. They were saying to him, how come if you have a mom, you're here? So your mom doesn't love you? How come you are here? And he really was hurt by that, and he would suffer so much, and he started to really realize, yeah, they are right. How come if I have a mom, I'm here?
In all his years at the shelter, he said his mother only visited him a few times. Years later, Juanga told the journalist Maite Delgado that he had longed for love and affection, the things he didn't have.
Lo único que pedía era amor, cariño, porque era de lo que yo había carecido, ¿verdad? De niño, al estar internado.
Washed other people's clothes, cleaned a church, waited tables. Then, he met a priest. The priest invited teenage Juanga to live with him. As his servant, the file actually uses that word, sirviente. Juan Gabriel agreed. Then the file reads, the priest raped him.
Straight on.
Juan Gabriel was 14 years old. Knew Ladies and gentlemen, the time is 8:34. If we need to bed now, please try to go ahead and I confirmed the story.
Shut down your computers and
I agonized whether to publish this detail or not. I consulted with other journalists, including Columbia University's Stern Center for Journalism and Trauma. I slept on it for months.
And I am going to be traveling to Fort Texas and before we all go sleep tonight.
But his
So,
humanity, he was so alone and
anyway,
desperate for safety, for a home. I kept
so
imagining
once
what it
again,
must be
if
like
you
to
need
be
to go to
alone
bed
this
now,
tender age, and in your
try to get
innocence
off
and
the street
naivete and
now.
loneliness.
Thank you.
You trust people you shouldn't, because you have no one else, because your mom turned you away. As I say this, I realize I'm no longer just talking about Juan Gabriel and his mother, because thinking about a vulnerable 13, 14-year-old Juan Gabriel in Juarez makes me think of another young adolescent once in Juarez in my own family. Another 13-year-old turned away by their mother. My own mom.
Go straight on.
Okay, I gotta tell you about my mom. She smiles at every stranger on the street, like literally everyone who crosses her path.
Go straight on.
She talks to dogs like they're reasoning adults.
Turn right.
She tells scandalous jokes. She makes all the kids dance at parties from cumbia to reggaeton. You know that story at the beginning of the episode about my mom taking me to the club? One of the reasons I cherish that memory so much is because my mom's experience with going out dancing when she was young was a complete opposite of mine. Her mom didn't drive her to the club. On the contrary, my mom wasn't really let out much. Her mom, my grandmother, worked as an overnight nurse and slept all day, so my mom had to take care of her younger siblings and fend for herself since she was like 9 years old.
Para ellos no era su mamá, pues yo le decía mamá, pero era una niña y sentía la carga.
My mom had a complicated home life, a lot of responsibilities, and she felt really alone. So when she was a teenager and friends started inviting her out, she'd sneak out any chance she got. She would go dancing with her friends in some of the same clubs where Juanga once sang.
Aunque sabía que después que viniera, ya lo bailaba, ¿quién me lo quitaba? Sí, el baile siempre me fascinó.
They couldn't take away the dancing I'd done, she tells me as we deeper here. That dancing was not just dancing for my mom, but a respite, a balm.
Había tenido un rato de felicidad.
She'd gotten a moment of happiness.
Había ido a disfrutar y eso para mí era lo máximo. Entonces, wow, salí, bailé.
She had danced.